From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. When school leaders in Colorado work to prevent shootings and other violent incidents, like the one last month at Evergreen High, they have a tool that officials in many states don't have. Under Colorado's so-called red flag law, teachers and other educators are among those who can request that someone's access to firearms be suspended if they appear to be a threat to themselves or others. Problem is, there's little evidence that educators have used this tool in the 2 years since Colorado lawmakers gave it to them. And that lack of use is striking, given that police say the shooter at Evergreen High showed warning signs months before he shot 2 other students and then died by suicide using a gun he got from home. Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser thinks part of the problem is teachers don't know about this tool or know how to use it. So he's launching new training courses for teachers to help them better understand how and when to use what are called extreme risk protection orders. Weiser, who, by the way, is running for governor, but launched this initiative in his current capacity as state attorney general, joined me to talk about why he's optimistic this new teacher training will make a dent in the problem. And just a warning before we get started, this conversation does contain mention of suicide. I want to start with some data. Your office has years of data from a program that allows students to anonymously report potential threats. About how many tips do you get in a given year, and what kinds of threats are young people reporting?
After Columbine, Colorado set up a program known as Safe to Tell. And over the last year, we got north of 30,000 tips from students. These tips can touch on any matter that involves harm to students. It could involve bullying, students who are contemplating suicide. It can involve people selling drugs in a school or people bringing guns to school. There are, sadly, so many reasons that students are hurting and facing difficult, even potentially tragic situations. Safe to Tell is a safe and anonymous way students can report the threats they're facing, or staff or other people who know about these threats can report them, and we can pass them on to schools, to law enforcement, to mental health professionals to help take action before tragedy strikes.
Let's talk about the red flag law. Teachers have been able to request that someone's guns be confiscated since 2023. Why did you think educators should be included on that list?
One of the challenges Colorado has is we're not using this red flag tool to the extent that other states. For example, Florida has a red flag law. They've had one for well over a decade. They're using it much more effectively, much more consistently than Colorado. We are still in Colorado learning about how to use this tool. And this is a tool that law enforcement obviously needs to learn how to use, but other groups like educators are in a position to report threats to young people. We're used to this in education when a teacher may hear about a child being abused, for example. That's a potential concern. Child Protective Services could be involved. Teachers know they are looking out for their kids if they're coming to school and they're beaten, for example, or they're seeming to be suffering from real trauma. Teachers know to ask and to do something with that information.
Right.
Teachers need to know as well that if you're hearing from a young person that they have access to a firearm and they're contemplating suicide, we need that information acted on, and a red flag order is a way to remove the firearm and prevent young people from taking their own life.
So far, the actual use of the red flag law among teachers appears to be very limited. It's not really clear how many K-12 educators have acted because those petitions are sealed by the courts when minors are involved. And at the college level, only 2 petitions have been filed. Why do you think the use of this tool hasn't really caught on among educators?
A lack of awareness of the red flag tool is the primary reason that we think it's being underused. Most educators, we believe, don't even know the tool is there. That's why we're working hard to spread the word. We develop a training geared towards educators, both K through 12, but also higher ed. And the message is simple. If you hear something, please say something and do something.
And as you mentioned, your office has launched and is offering a new training course for teachers and school administrators in the use of what are called ERPOs, extreme risk protection orders. Could you briefly walk us through what's involved in the training? What skills or knowledge are teachers going to get from this?
First and foremost, we want teachers to know here's how the procedure works. And that's part of what we explain to teachers. Here's what the procedure looks like. You make an initial report, and you can either do this in conjunction with law enforcement or you can do this on your own. And you say to the court, here are the facts confronting this young person, and this is why we need action. And then there's room for both temporary action and then finally permanent action, which will remove the firearm from the dangerous situation. It's important that teachers know this tool is out there, it can be used, and that we know it saves lives. And here's the reality of the worlds we live in. Yes, people say you could still die by suicide if you didn't have access to a firearm, but it's so much less likely that you'll be successful with another mechanism. And the same thing with homicide. Gun violence is the leading cause of death for young people for a reason. Too many people who are a danger to themselves and others have access to firearms. We've got to use every tool we can to address that concern.
You've pushed for wider use of extreme risk protection orders over the years. Do you sense any hesitation among teachers to report a student under red flag laws?
One of the concerns, and it's a broader concern, sometimes teachers, sometimes others want to say, can I just tune out these threats? And this is part of the challenge for us as a society. Rather than tuning out what's going on around us, how about we tune in? How about we lean in? And for many of these conversations, it's got to be, are you doing okay? And sometimes when someone says, I want to take my life and I have access to a gun, that's a cry for help. And there are multiple ways you can help someone. First, remove that firearm so the risk to their life is not so present and available. Second, make sure people are getting the services they need and that we're opening up conversations that it's okay not to be doing okay. It's not okay to suffer in silence, and it's so awful for people to think about ending their life because they see themselves as having no hope for their future.
We mentioned some of the privacy challenges around minors. How will you measure the success of this teacher training program in the coming years?
We want to make sure that teachers are more aware of this tool as one way they can take action. We have a broader conversation around school culture and school safety. Teachers need to be a part of that commitment to a culture that we check in with kids. We know how they're doing. We know who's at risk, and we know what to do when someone is in a risky situation. We cannot ignore warning signs. Like you mentioned, there were some in Evergreen. We can't ignore signs that people are struggling. We have to take them seriously. We have to be willing to take action.
That's Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser talking about educating teachers on a program that can restrict access to firearms for a student who's struggling. We'll have more on the training program from our partners at Chalkbeat Colorado in our show notes and at kunc.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.